Okay, so it looks like we're live. If anyone's watching this live right now, feel free to use the chat and let me know if everything's going all right. So in this video, I'm going to be going over Node.js and the Express framework. So very simple. I'll show you how to quickly set up your own simple web server, create your own API, your first API. And if you have a website, if you have the static assets, your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I'll show you how to serve it and use this web server. And additionally, at the end of the video, I'll also give you an introduction to templates such as EJS or handlebars. So you'll get an idea of how server-side rendering works. So now I'm just going to switch over to my desktop so that you can see everything. So hopefully you can see my desktop right now. Right now I'm going to open up the browser. And I'm going to navigate over to nodejs.org, which is where you can download the the Node.js for your system. So it's cross-platform, available for all operating systems. I'm not sure if the Mac OS, the Apple Silicon version has been released, but even if not, still the x64 version will be available, and the moment you download it, it will be detected and it'll ask you if you want to run it using Rosetta. So if you say yes, then it's going to work fine. So if you're on Linux or Mac, even on Windows, there's an optional thing that you can do, and I will recommend it. So if you're a beginner, just go over here, click on the download button. It's a normal installation, just like how you would install anything else. But if you want to actually start using Node.js properly for multiple projects, then what I would recommend you using is something called NVM, which is Node Version Manager. So I'm just going to do a search for Node Version Manager, and the GitHub repo should be the first one that shows up, nvm sh. So this GitHub repository will show you the instructions. So it's very simple. All you need to do is copy and paste this command. So if you're using the bash shell, just use bash, or if you're using zsh, use zsh, change this part at the end. Hopefully you can see this. So all you need to do is copy the script and paste it, and nvm is going to be installed. So the reason I would recommend you to use NVM, especially if you want to seriously get started with Node.js, is when you work on multiple projects, sometimes the dependencies will be specific to the version of Node that you're using. So as they release new versions, there could be breaking changes, and you want to make sure that you're always using the correct version. So to manage the different versions of Node, to switch easily between them, this is really helpful. So I'm going to open up the terminal and just show you how to quickly use it. So I can do nvm ls-remote to list all the versions of Node.js that I can download and install using nvm. So you can see that you have different LTS versions or all the different versions of Node.js, and I can choose one of them and just say nvm install. I'm not sure if you can see this. So let me just increase the size. So nvm install and then the version. So 12.0.0, something like that. And it's going to install. And at any point of time, you can switch between them using the use command. So use and then the version. And I think if you just want to see the installed versions, you can type nvm ls. So that's all the versions installed. And this is how you set up Node.js for the first time. So when doing this video, I expect you to have a basic understanding of how JavaScript works, because Node.js is basically a JavaScript runtime. You can see that right here on their webpage. So the language is actually JavaScript. It just helps you run JavaScript on the server. So you need to have a basic understanding of that first. Now what I'm going to do is since I have Node.js installed, I'm going to move into the folder that I want to go, and I'm going to create a new folder, which is where I'm going to have my project set up. So I'm going to call this node-tutorial. You can call it anything you want. Cd change directories into that folder. And then once you're into that folder, what we're going to do is use the just before doing that, I think I want to yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to use the npm command. So npm is something called node package manager, and this is how you manage dependencies and packages in Node. So I'm going to go to the browser again and search for npmjs.com, and this is a website where you can search for packages. So for example, the Express package that we're going to be using today, you can search for it. It's this one, and you can view the details of the package, who's the author, the version, any bug fixes, the dependencies, all the details of it can be viewed using this website, and npm is the tool that we're going to use to manage our packages. But what we're going to do is I'm going to run npm init, so that's going to create a blank or a startup project for us. So it's going to ask us a few questions. I'm just going to use a default for all of them, so just keep hitting enter, and then it's going to ask, is it okay? Yes. So it's done. So I'm just going to use a different shell for this. Okay. So I'm going to say ls to list the contents, and now so initially I just created an empty project. Now I can see a new file has been created. So I'm going to use the cat command to just list the file, see what's there. So you can see it's just a simple JSON file where we have a few pieces of information like the name, the version, the description, and then the main file, the script. So you can add different scripts that you can run, and then the author, and then the license. So we don't need to worry about this too much. Now what we're going to do is install our first package, the Express package. That's the framework that we're going to use to create a web server. So just to let you know, you can create your own server, a simple HTTP server, just using Node.js, but Express makes it extremely simple and helps you add on additional packages and functionality to your app. And it's quite lightweight also. So all you need to do is hit npm I express. So this installs the Express package. Or else you can also use the full word, or for short, just use I. Do this and hit enter. It's going to look for the package, download, and install it. Now, where does it install? This is why I generally like JavaScript, because everything's in front of you. You know what's happening behind the scenes. If you type ls to list the contents, now you can see there's a package-lock.json and a node modules folder. So the package-lock.json is similar to the package.json, but the package.json only has files that you have added. So if I add express as a dependency, now I'm going to list the contents of the file right now. And now we can see under dependencies I see express. Before I wasn't able to see that, now I can see it. But the package-lock.json has all the dependencies of express, so it's going to have much more. So I'm going to do the same thing, but for the lock file. And now I can see much more information over here. So this is because it has all the additional information about the package and the dependencies also, which usually you don't need to worry about. So if I want to delete this log file, I could. Even the node modules folder, I could. Nothing's going to happen. I can obviously rebuild it from this main package or JSON file. So this is stuff that I need to run the project, but if at any point of time, if I want to delete this, I can definitely rebuild my project from this package.json file. So what is in the node modules folder? It's pretty self-explanatory. All the code for the dependencies, all the packages I install are inside the node modules folder. So I could go into the node modules folder and hit ls, but there's going to be a lot. It's just going to keep going. So, but this is just an idea, just going to give you an idea of what's actually there. So I'm going to go back out into my main project, and I'm going to use VS Code from now on. So just hit code dot to open code in the current directory, and I'm going to close my terminal. So from now on, I'm just going to use the editor. Let's resize this a little bit. And so this is our project setup. I can open the integrated terminal from here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is create our first file. So the main file says index.js. You can change it, but since it says index.js, let's do the same thing over here. So let's create a new file. Let's call it index.js. So I'm just going to take a minute to make sure everything's fine with the stream. Seems fine. Okay. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually import the Express module or the package. So we create a new constant. You should be knowing this if you're familiar with JavaScript. And we're going to call it Express. Anything's fine. And then we're going to require that package. So as I start typing, I can see auto completion works. Now, after this, what we're going to do is we're going to create an app variable and we're just going to call express. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say app.listen and I'm going to specify a port number. So maybe 3000. And then this is going to have a callback function. And then all I'm going to do is log app is running on port 3000. Hit this. And then on the bottom, I have two options right now. Either I can just use Node and then say index.js. That's going to work. I can see it works. It says app is running on port 3000. Or I can close this. And what I can do is I can create a script. So under package.json, it has a test script, which I don't want. I'm not going to go into testing this time. I'm going to call it start. So this is the main start script. This is usually the convention used. And I'm going to say node index.js. So this is usually recommended every time you do a project because the other people working on it or wanting to maybe just test your project, you don't want them to have to type out the entire command altogether. They just want to look at this one file and run the script that they want. So now instead of typing out node index.js, I'm just going to say npm run start, npm run the name of the script. And you can see it says app is running on port 3000. Now, I'm going to give you another tip which is going to be very helpful for projects on the future. We are going to install something called NodeMon. So this is our second NPM package that we're using. Again, if you want, you can search it by going over here to the actual site. But the small change is we're going to use a flag. We're going to say -save-dev and then the name of the package. This is because we want to install it as a dev dependency, not as an actual dependency. So this is important, especially when we're deploying our app or project somewhere. And on that server, we don't need NodeMon because all we need to do is run the project. The reason I'm using NodeMon is so that every time we make a change, the server automatically restarts. Normally, that's not going to happen. We need to manually kill the server and start it again. Using NodeMon, it's going to automatically restart a server and make our life much easier. So we are specifically adding this as a dev dependency. So you can see there's a separate section over here. So now we can add a second script. We can call this dev maybe. And here we're going to say nodemon and then index.js. So I'll show you the differences right now. Now I'm just going to say node, just npm run start. So our app is running. But what you can see is, let's go over here and change something. App is running on port with 2 T's. Save this and you see nothing's happened. It's just like that again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, save this, and now I'm going to use the dev script. So we're going to be running a nodemon. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this again, add 2 T's, hit save, and you can see it's automatically restarted because our file has changed. So that's very helpful. So we're going to be using nodemon from now on. And let's actually go to the browser and start working with our app. So I'm going to go over to localhost 3000. So that's the port that we set and hit enter. But we see an error. It says cannot get slash. Now the first thing to notice, it actually worked. Our app is working as we intended it to. The only thing it says cannot get slash. Now if our app wasn't working, I'll demonstrate this. I'm going to kill the server and hit reload. Now we can say that it says the site can't be reached at all. So it doesn't exist anymore. Our server isn't even running. But if we run the server and then hit reload, we see this, but it says cannot get slash. That means the route is not available. So let's set up our first route. So that's extremely simple with Express. All we need to say is app and then dot and then the verb or the method. So if it's a website, it's mostly going to be a get request. And then we're going to add the route. So just say the route, just slash, and then it's going to take a callback function with a request and a response object. So I'm just going to use an arrow function. It has the request and the response. And now what we're going to do is, let's say, so we're going to send back in our response some text. Let's just say hello world. Okay, save this and it automatically restarts. And now let's reload our page and we can see it says hello world. So it actually worked. Our first part has worked. So the first main goal of the app. Now I'm going to show you how to send different types of data. So now all we sent is plain text. We can also send JSON either by putting a JavaScript object inside this. like this, these curly brackets, and adding whatever we want. Or we can say res.json, and then we can pass in whatever we want. So let's say name equals something John, age equals 5, and let's reload, and we can see our JSON object over here correctly running. So if you notice, actually over here, it's a JavaScript object. It's getting converted to a JSON object and then being sent. And that's the intended way we actually want it, because JSON is a format, it's a standard that's used everywhere, and it's important that we actually send the data in JSON and not a simple JavaScript object. So now we're able to do simple sending of information. Let's do another route. Let's do app.get, another get request, and let's say slash login maybe. And then again, we have a request and a response. And then let's say res.send, please login. Now I am going to reload, still the same thing, but let's navigate to slash login, and now we say please login. So that's very cool. We've set up quite a lot of stuff. Now the second thing that I'm not going to actually demonstrate, but just to let you know, is you can change this verb to post. So this is helpful if you're having any form or any kind of request that you need to send where you actually send data. So you can use post, and then what you can do is you can use request.body, and then whatever you want. So maybe the age is in the body, the phone number is in the body, the name, any kind of information that's being sent. But the important thing is you need to actually get this. So let me just show how. Go to the Express documentation. Express, yeah. So there are different types of ways that the request, the body is sent. So it can be sent as JSON, it can be sent as a URL encoded. There are different ways, so you want to be able to parse all this stuff. That's why it's important. Let's see. Express body parse. And yeah, this one, the body parser middleware. So middleware is a little advanced concept, but it's basically it's kinds of sits in the middle of all the requests, so it parses it before. So all you need to do is install the body parser module, and then you can add it as a middleware like this. So when you add that, you're going to be able to parse all the bodies, the request bodies, and actually get the data using request.body, and you will be able to extract the individual pieces of information. So that's how you set up routes. Now I'm going to go back here and let's see. I need to do, yeah, static files. So we need to say app.use express.static, and then we give it a name of the directory. So it can be anything we want. Here they've given public, let's use public too. And basically what it means is we're going to create a folder called public. It can be anything. Maybe you can call it static if you want. And all our static files are going to go in over here. So I can say index.html, and let's create a blank HTML project, file, had a title, and let's see. So that's a static file. Now if I reload this, I can see hello. So it's taken our static file from here. We can also go into /index.html, and we can still get a file. Now another option that you can do is you can specifically send a file. So you can use send file and then give the path to the file. So this is generally not used. You either just use static file, but this is another option that you have. Now I think I went over most of the things. So I mentioned that I'll be going over, if you actually have a website, how you can host it and serve the website. So with a simple HTML website, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all your static assets just put in the public folder and you're done. Everything's ready. Even if you're using something like Angular, Vue, or React, you create the final build, the production build, and it's going to output all your static files. Just put that into the public folder and you're done. Everything's good. Now, I'm not going to go over too much in detail about static server-side rendering, but let's go over a few different ways. So I'm going to kill the server and I'm going to use a template called EJS. There's a few common ones. Another common one, popular one is handlebars. So I'm just going to install EJS. Let's go over here and see, where is it? Yeah, using template engines. So you can use different template engines with EJS to have dynamic content. So the problem with just uploading these files is they're never going to change. They're all static. But what if you want files, website that's very dynamic and that's going to change? So if a particular user logs in, you want to display their name and not the other person's name or generic name. So in that case, server-side rendering will be quite useful. So you can see there are quite a few ones listed on the page. You have Pug, Mustache, EJS, Handlebars, there are a lot of ones. So I'm going to use EJS. So install it using npm. I just installed it. And then what you can do is you can set it over here using this line. So app.set view engine, and instead of Pug, I'm going to use EJS. And now let's try it for the login page. Instead of saying res.send, we're going to use res.render. Sorry, before this we need to set the place. Yeah, so we need to actually tell Express where our views are, where our files are that we want to render. So near this line, let's add this other line also. So it's the views directory. Let's create our views directory. So inside our view directories, we're going to create a new file. Let's call it tutorial.ejs, EJS extension. So basically it's another HTML file. I'm again going to create a blank one, and let's put something inside. Hello, save it. And now instead of doing send file or send or anything else, I'm going to say res.render, and I'm going to say tutorial. Save that, start the dev server, go back here, and let's go into the login route. Cannot get login. Oh, sorry. So we changed it to post. We need to change it back to get. Reload, and we can see hello. Now it looks the same. It doesn't look like we've done anything different, but this is where it becomes a little more interesting. So we can actually send data and pre-render it on the server before we actually send the HTML file. So I'm going to say name equals John. Now in our EJS file, I'm going to use this syntax. I actually don't remember if it's actual syntax. So again, similar to a HTML element, use this angle bracket and then a % inside. And if you want to display a value, use the equal to sign and then the name of the value, which is name in this case. Save this, reload, and we can see hello John. So depending on the data coming in, maybe you want to attach, maybe you want to integrate this with a database, MongoDB or any SQL database. Maybe you want to process the request, get data from the database, and then pass in these values and then render it. So you can do all kinds of complex things and just build up your app in complexity like this. And if you're using something like EJS or any kind of template engine, you can also do if statements, you can do conditions, you can do loops. So you can send a list of data. Maybe you want to create a chat application or something, and you can you can loop through, iterate through this entire list, and you can output a list of items. So you can do a lot of stuff with this. It becomes really interesting, and I think this gives you a good starting point when it comes to Node.js and Express, and you can definitely build upon this. And I'm thinking the next video I'll maybe work on MongoDB and use Mongo specifically to use MongoDB, show you how to integrate with the database. Generally I've learned the other way around. Generally people start with SQL and then go into NoSQL, as it's becoming popular nowadays. But I started with that, and I generally biased towards it, and that's usually the only one that is installed on my computer. So I think the next video I'm going to start with that. So I think this pretty much wraps up the video. If you have any doubts, questions, if you want to know anything in specific, let me know in the chats or the comments, and I'll definitely get back to you. and I think the next video should be tomorrow or on Monday. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching this video.